Today is July 25th, 2023. My name is Jo Reingold, and I'm here interviewing Mark Kreditor, talking about the Jewish Federation of Dallas. Hello, Mark. Thank you for coming in.
My honor. Thank you for having me.
And tell us a little bit about when you served. What was life like during your tenure, and just various leaders that you knew and who you got to know while you were president?
I was so fortunate during the 2 years that I served, which was 2017 until 2019, because we were finishing up a tenure of Bradley Lay, our CEO. And there's nothing better than having someone the last years of their career, because they can do no wrong because you can't do anything about it anyway. But he did so much right. Bradley was a very smart individual. He had vision, a great love of Jewish life, and he knew the community. So generally our federation was well cared for, and I was extremely fortunate to focus on the real job of the board chair, which is to really be the head cheerleader for the federation to the community.
What would you say the relationship was with the Federation and synagogues or other Jewish organizations?
It was improving more and more. We were starting to move towards grant allocations to synagogues, and that made synagogues very excited. During my tenure, I believe we were the lead sponsor of Tiferet Israel's Chili Cook-Off, which we looked at as a wonderful opportunity to continue to provide branding to the community about the Federation. So I think synagogues in general really embraced Federation, but there was nothing that made us more joined at the hip than the October 2018 killings at the Tree of Life Synagogue. Because once there were murders at synagogues in Pittsburgh, we immediately went into what we do best, and that's overreaction, and started to set up a series of training sessions at synagogues called Run, Hide, Fight. And I would go as a representative of the Federation and introduce myself and apologize for having to be here tonight, and we packed the house. The synagogues came out in force. They wanted to know how to protect themselves, and this was a very scary time. And this was towards the end of my beginning of my second year, and it drastically changed the relationship with synagogues. We needed them, and they needed us.
What about the relationship with other secular and or government organizations outside the Jewish community? Did you have any connections with those?
It was really exciting to learn about the Jewish Relations Committee and what we are, JCRC, which was what it was called at the time, Jewish Community Relations Committee, because we had the opportunity to go speak to college students and leaders, because BDS, Boycott, Divestiture, and Sanction, the State of Israel, was a pretty popular subject at college campuses that we were vehemently against seeing spread without our input. And we had a subcommittee set up. Hilton Jonas was one of the leaders at the time, and we became very comfortable talking about Israel, the misconceptions, and why these types of decisions are often not made with all the information they need, and that's why we were there. So I did travel to the southern sector of Dallas, speaking at some of the community college networks, and we also hosted, as we continue to do, the annual community Seder, which brought in all religious leaders to a Seder sponsored by the Federation, and this also was a wonderful opportunity for us to do outreach outside the Jewish community.
And that was very successful to this day.
To this day.
Yes. You've touched on Israel and BDS, but how supportive would you say the Federation was overall with Israel, and what kinds of things did you do connected directly with Israel?
Israel is not the easiest, most transparent, funded agency to really convey to our community, because if you haven't been there, it's really hard to see what it is that we are providing funding for. And in fact, what we fund are called NGOs, non-government organizations. So when we did have very successful missions, which we continue to do to this day, the mission program really got jump-started around this time that I was board chair, because we had wonderful leadership in this area. We would be able to come back from our region, which was the Akko region in the northwest sector of Israel, and be able to tell our constituents that we are funding Israel and Arab cooperative programs. And when you're on the ground and you see these children in these kibbutzim who are with special needs that we are providing funding for, it warms your heart, brings a tear to your eye, and you no longer second guess or try to question the fact that it's always been important for this community to support the Israel that we support.
You've mentioned some of the leaders in this community, but can you expand on that? Some more various leaders that you've worked with and that you gave them specific jobs to do under you?
Well, I was extremely fortunate because the board chair previous to my tenure was Dan Prescott, and Dan and I remain very close friends, and you learn a lot working with Dan. He has great vision. We call them Danisms. A lot of the things that he says become monikers in the community. And before Dan, there was Cindy Sweet Moskowitz, whose late father was also a board chair of the Federation. And being able to have the three of us together was very supportive. It was a really good opportunity to be the very best board chairs that we could be because we had each other. But during my tenure, I do want to point out that outreach and engagement to the newcomers coming to Dallas was one of the main priorities, and we set up a subcommittee. It was led by Yannette Hogue, and also it was done with Jim Tolbert, and these two leaders were fantastic in being able to put together the data that we needed to recognize the fact that outreach and engagement was an important part of what this federation should be focused on. We continue to have well over 1,000 new Jewish people come to our community every year, and this idea of being able to find a way to educate them and engage them, welcome them, should always be part of our plan. But it was definitely fortified by these leaders.
Wonderful. You're not from here, but you've been in Dallas many, many, many years. So how have you seen the community change over time?
I moved here 41 years ago, but my Uncle Lou came in 1942, so there's been a Kreditor here for 80 years. I always believed that the people of Dallas were friendly, open-minded, and most importantly, very helpful to newcomers. So when you ask me what has changed in Dallas, it's only gotten better. I don't think that the core of helping a newcomer, because you were once a newcomer, has changed in thousands of years, but it lives and breathes in our community because there are so many people who continue to come here that want to start businesses, want to find jobs, want to find schools, need a doctor. It's just a natural extension of our friendliness and welcoming in our Dallas Jewish community. So I'd like to say nothing has changed. Things have actually always been great and continue to get better all the time. People call and want something, and it's always everyone's pleasure to help.
That's great. Now, more specifically, what changes have you seen, or did you see and experience in the Federation during your tenure?
During my tenure, I think we really wanted to focus on making the donor feel as good as possible. There was a line that said in 1974's chorus line, dance 10, looks 3. Well, our line was solicit once, thank 10. In other words, the solicitation is one thing, the conversation, but go out of your way to invite and engage and thank your donors. And we really went out of our way. I was very adamant about remembering birthdays. I, to this day, tell new board chairs to get some cards printed with the Federation logo on it and send handwritten thank you notes from you as the board chair to community leaders, not necessarily in direct line with Federation, but someone who's doing something incredible outside of our general business observance, you know, someone from a far-off synagogue or day school or Chabad. And this type of outreach and thanks is still to this day an important component of what we do.
Okay. In relation to your time at the Federation, if you can think of something, I'm sure you can, what are you the most proud of? Or a couple of examples if you want.
Well, I think one of the things I'm most proud of, I take great pride in having a front row seat and seated next to incredible leaders that I can't not go without mentioning. And my wife Carol and I were so crazy about the late Howard and Leslie Schultz, and we learned so much from them, more than we could ever learn in business or even in a community, because they lived this idea of joyous support and giving. And I still to this day learn from great leaders like Nate and Ann Levine, who just see things through the eyes of what can we do. And I believe that that is what I most feel was transformative, in that because of my involvement or anybody's involvement with our federation, you really get a front row seat with some incredible people, and that's something I will never ever forget.
Wonderful. You've shared some wonderful things with us, but is there anything else, any other special experiences or stories that you would like to share that you haven't yet?
Yes, when I was board chair, within a few months, Hurricane Harvey hit the city of Houston and really flooded most of the Jewish community. It actually overflowed into the Jewish community. And within days, our community was so ready to help. We were able to mobilize tens of thousands of meals that were being shipped out by trucks provided by some of our wonderful donor families, the Browns and certainly the Aarons. Trucks going. We cooked the food, they delivered the food. And then we had our young adult division ordering supplies, toiletries for children and families, thousands and thousands of boxes being delivered at the JCC campus. This was something that you would see on a television show, and I was so proud it was done without any, need for bravado. It was just done because that's what we do. That's what our federation does. That's what this community does. And it was Hurricane Harvey that was quite an impact for me to realize that this is a big job that we do. In fact, when we had our first major event that year, the speaker was the Federation CEO from Houston, and I still have a very special connection to the city because that hurricane affected us as well.
I remember that well. So, I'm not going to say in conclusion, but is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would like to say that one of the unfortunate turns in the road that really occurred in October of 2018 with the Tree of Life synagogue murders was that our community is now more focused than ever before in security. And this is something that having a front row seat to see it continue to grow, thanks to many great leaders that we have in our community leading the charge, CSI, Community Security Initiative, SCAN, which are all very important components, because I'll never forget, because we had SCAN, the Secure Community Alert Network, my phone went off so many times that day. I mean, it was unbelievable how this community was warned that something terrible had happened. And to this day, even now, there's over $1 million a year that's now being allocated towards security, something that we really didn't have to worry about as much as it really occurred on the 2 years that I was board chair. It's not something I'm proud of. It's something I had, unfortunately, a front row seat to. And I think about even the Federation's, our mission statement, which says that we're going to help ensure the continuity of a strong and vibrant Jewish community. I think it's a strong, vibrant, and secure Jewish community, because that has become just as important as anything else. We do so much now in consulting and helping with the day schools, the synagogues, the Jewish Community Center. We have a full-time security expert on staff, full-time. All this came about during the 2 years that I was board chair, and it's something I'm proud of because it's a necessary part of our community. I hope people watching this in years to come don't have to have this still a necessary part of your community.
Well, we certainly thank you for your presidency, your tenure, and all of the great things you accomplished during your years.
Thank
And we
you.
appreciate you being here.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.